Okay, good evening, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. Thank God for being here. Thank God for salvation, and it's good to be with everybody today. If you could, my wife, Sister Tanya Sandridge, is working with me. Make sure if you can hear me, if somebody can give her a thumbs up or a quick yes. Um, and if you're having any issues or whatever, I hope everybody can get in. And I'll say this first of all is that there's a picture of me out there on the internet that someone put out to accompany this. I can tell you this: you may be able to use that picture, and you may see me walking down the street, and you may recognize me. But I'm sure the first thing you'll tell me is, "Hey, man, you need to update that picture." All right. I didn't put it out there. It wasn't my fault. All right. But anyway, that's enough of that. It's good to be here, but I thought it would be a good time to update everyone together on coronavirus. And this is going to be a series. And one more piece of work here is that it would be great if you all could pull up the PowerPoint that I sent out to accompany this presentation, and the next ones to come with it. I will send out updated PowerPoint to accompany that specific topic. All right. So with that, let's get going. Again, my name is Brother Arnold Sandridge. I'm from the Church of God in Chicago at 46 in Drexel. And I've been in infectious diseases research for, like I said before, over a couple of decades. Did a lot of work on HIV. And here we are now. We're talking about the coronavirus. And I want to start off with a scripture here. When the children of Israel were in Babylon, God gave them something, let the people know who they were. And this scripture I thought was very appropriate in Daniel 1 and 4. It says, children, he was speaking of them, when they were captured, children in whom was no blemish, but they were well favored. They were skillful in wisdom and cunning in knowledge. They knew how to handle knowledge and understanding science. And when you look at the word science, people think, it's test tubes and all. No, it just means actually skillfully applying and understanding knowledge through certain processes. That's really all it's all about. And such that had the ability in them to stand in the king's palace. And sometimes, it's interesting that you'll find yourself in places when you're working in such areas like this. And thank God I work for a company. We just released a new test, blood test, the test for antibodies. So that's a tough but fun thing to do. And whom they might teach the learning in the tongue of the Chaldeans. So I won't be teaching you any foreign languages, but you may learn a few new words. All right. So again, Corona the word stands for crown. And you see the cartoon we have here on slide number 1 for those who can access the PowerPoint. The little buds that are coming off the surface of the virus, they look like crowns, and that's where the word corona comes from. All right. So we go to page 2 in the presentation. I want to tell you all of the agenda for the coming time. Today we're going over corona basics and just very high level basics. And I'll say this right now. If you have questions as we go along the way, please raise the questions. My wife, Sister Tanya, will be collecting questions, and then we can entertain as many as we can at the end. This is designed to go for about a half hour, and but we'll see how it goes, okay? The next one, and I plan on doing these weekly. We'll see. Why such disparity? Why do we see such differences across populations, etc.? And then what do we need to do as people? What should be our actions? What are our responsibilities? And then lastly, we, God willing, will look at testing, tracking, treatment, vaccines, just the ABCs of those things, okay? So that's how we will roll. And then if there are other topics that anyone has that's burning and you'll say, I've always wanted to know, then we can do that. Go to page 3 in the presentation. I hope everyone can see the presentation by now. Okay. I want to just explain just a little bit the differences. We hear about virus. We've heard about bacteria. Let me just explain just a couple of the similarities, and this is a very high level. Those of you who are in science like I am, you'll know I didn't go too deeply here, but I want us to understand just a couple similarities and differences, okay? When you talk viruses and bacteria, they both, if you look at point A, both types of infections are called microbes. So when we say microbes, we're talking viruses and bacteria, okay? Then number two, bacteria and viruses can spread both ways by coughing, sneezing, other methods. They're very similar in spreading. Um, Contact with contaminated surfaces, with food and water. You hear, oh, there's an E. coli outbreak. That's bacteria, or listeria, or in the hotels at the conferences, or coming through the air vents, right? Bacteria or viruses, right? You can hear about all those things, but and also with contact with creatures and pets and livestock and all of that. These are ways they can spread. But I want you to pay a little bit of attention to the little drawing I have, this little cartoon that I've accompanied this particular slide. I want you to see the size comparison. Now, the brown border is the typical human cell. Okay, we're just going to call it a human cell, right? And in that cell, you'll see the green globe in there. That's the nucleus. The nucleus of the cell is where our genes, the DNA and everything is located, right? I'm pointing that out because I want you to see, if you look, you'll see an orange rod-like structure. And that orange rod-like structure is the typical bacteria. Bacteria come in all shapes and sizes, right? But for comparison's sake, this is relative to the size. Now, inside of a human cell, you can see how much larger that brown border is versus the orange rod. You can see how much larger a human cell is than a bacterial cell. But now look at the little dot, that little pinhead dot that's labeled virus. Viruses are very, very small, but they cause a lot of trouble, right? Well, viruses are very simple. They're just nothing but two things mostly. They have protein and they have genes. So protein and genes. That's all viruses are. But they're so simple, but they cause a lot of issues, right? Now, I want to move on to page 4. Well, before we finish, go to the bottom of page 3. I want to just 2 notes. You notice if a person goes to the doctor and they get treated for a bacterial infection, right? One of the things you'll find out is that, oh boy, a person can take antibiotics such as penicillin, right? And the reason why a person who has a bacterial infection can have an antibiotic is because when bacteria infects a person, the bacteria stays outside of the human cells for the most part. They stay outside of the human cell. They'll float around in the plasma. They'll hang out inside of tissue, but they won't go literally inside of a cell. So therefore, an antibiotic can work. It can get to them and kill them, right? Well, a virus, that little pinhead structure, knows how to get inside of a human cell. It gets inside of it. And once it's inside of a human cell, you can give antibiotics, but the antibiotics is floating around in the blood, and it's like, where's the virus? Oh, the virus is inside of the cell. Therefore, antibiotics do not work against viruses. This is why if you have a cold or a flu, notice they don't give you antibiotics. And if you have bronchitis or some bacterial, you have strep throat or whatever, they'll give a person antibiotics because bacteria lives outside of the cell. Viruses live inside of the cell. Hope that's clear. Now, for example, the coronavirus that we're discussing today, it lives inside of the cells of the lung, for example. It infects other tissue, but for our purposes tonight, we'll just hang out with the lungs, right? Because we hear a lot about respiratory issues, okay? So the coronavirus lives inside of the lung cells, and it causes all types of trouble. And one of the things it does is, well, it causes your immune system to just go crazy. And that's where most patients run into trouble. But we'll hold it there for right now. Okay? Let's move on to slide number 4. Okay, this is where I want to spend a little time. Now, last week on the presentation, I rushed through it. I didn't want to spend a lot of time. And believe it or not, I'm really close to being done with my presentation today because I want to interact with you. I have just this slide and one more. I want to spend just a little more time on these myths. These myths, the first one, I pulled out a few of the very common ones, right? Again, I want to revisit this: dark-skinned people will not be infected. And this was one of the earlier myths that were around. What makes them so deadly and dangerous is that if you believe that, then you'll be way less careful when you get around people who may be infected, saying, oh, I have dark skin, I'm okay. Well, in actuality, I think by now today, with the number of deaths and who is actually dying, I believe by now we understand that that is an absolute deadly myth. It has nothing to do with reality. Any of us, every person on this earth, every race on this earth can be infected. And indeed, this is what you're seeing. This is why it's a pandemic, because it's everywhere. Number 2, and for the life of me, I did some looking around. I was like, now, how can a virus get on a cellular network and spread across through 5G? How boy, maybe one of you have an answer. I couldn't find a way. That is absolutely just not true. Okay, not true at all. All right. Number 3, exposing yourself to warm temperatures can prevent viral contraction. You won't get contracted virus. Now this is interesting because, and I will tell you all this, every week we are learning more about this virus. It's a whole lot we don't know yet on the science side, but we're learning a whole lot more. This is an interesting one because we've already seen some places across the globe that are warm, that are actually, people are just being decimated by this virus, okay? So we know that's not true. However, I want to say this to you. If you remember, we talked about before, this virus can live on surfaces. And for example, with copper, the virus, if it's on the copper surface, if somebody coughs or sneezes and the virus lands on copper, it can live for about 4 hours. When I say live, every time I say a virus can live, I mean it can still infect the person. That's number 1. Number 2, if it lands on plastic or stainless steel, it can live for about 3 days. Now, hot temperature and humidity, what they're showing, just came out last week, they're showing with hot weather, the virus dies sooner than that on surfaces. So on copper, on plastic, on stainless steel, the virus will not live as long. However, let me say this to you very plainly. You can be in 110-degree weather with 80% humidity, and if somebody coughs or sneezes and they have the virus and you take it in, your chances of getting infection is still very high. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. On surfaces, hot weather makes a difference. The virus won't live as long. In the air and you breathing it in, hot weather, humidity makes no difference. It makes no difference at all. This is why we still must practice safety while this pandemic is going. My last point on this page is that the coronavirus is new. How in the world is the coronavirus actually named on Lysol cans? Now, you can go back and get some Lysol cans that you've had in your cabinet for a year, and you turn it around, and this is a label from Lysol can. That you see I circled in yellow, human coronavirus. If coronavirus is new, why did Lysol company, what were they like, looking in some crystal ball or something? No. Let me help you understand. Coronaviruses, there are many types. Coronaviruses are nothing new. In fact, about 20% of the colds that people get, and say across the globe, every year people get colds, right? Millions of people. About 20% of those colds are caused by some coronavirus. There are other viruses that cause this cold, too. Rhinovirus, respiratory syncytial virus, all these other viruses that can cause a cold. But we're locking in on corona. We've been studying coronaviruses for decades. The one that we see today is a new strain of it. So it's nothing new. We've seen coronaviruses for decades. The one that we are studying right now that's causing the pandemic is a different strain of it. So that's what makes it so dangerous. Common cold, our bodies have seen so many cold viruses. Our immune system knows exactly what to do. So in 3 days and 5 days, you feel better. Oh boy, I had a cold. Now I feel better. Notice that, Heather. But this particular coronavirus that we're dealing with now, this is a new strain. And that's why there's so much trouble. So with all of that, if we go to our last page in our presentation, I would like to reiterate, we must stay safe. There are things we must do. Okay? Number one, wash your hands. Wait a minute now. Let me make sure we understand what that means. When you wash your hands, listen to what I say. If I turn the water on, I get soap on my hands, and I turn around and just put my hands under the running water and just wash while the water's running. I'm rubbing my hands and the soap is just washing right off my hands into the drain. That's not washing your hands. What you want to do is turn the water on, wet your hands, soap your hands, lather, lather, lather. The running water is over there. Don't go back there yet. Just lather, and you see on the picture how much suds that they're making. Wash between your fingers and everything. Takes about 20 seconds to do all of that. Then you go and you rinse your hands off and dry them. That's a good way to wash your hands. Number two, if possible. Thank God for our frontline people. We have a lot of healthcare workers on. We have people who are firefighters. We have people in many walks of life, food prep, everything. And we thank God for you all. We have people who are truck drivers and all. So we thank God for you all, and we're praying for you all. But if you can, you stay at home. If you can't, you must practice these things to keep yourself safe. Number three, I have a cartoon of a person wearing a mask. Now, if you're wearing a mask, I want you to think two things. I want you to do this. You're going to play a game every time you put a mask on. This is what you're going to do. You are going to act as if you have coronavirus. You're going to act as if everybody else around you have coronavirus. You're going to put that mask on and you're going to say, I'm going to prevent myself from giving anyone corona. And then you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to prevent everyone else from giving me corona. I hope that makes sense. That's the purpose of wearing a mask. And the reason why that is true, right now the data shows 20 to 50% of the people who have coronavirus don't have symptoms. They don't even know they have them. They don't even know they have it. And yet they can infect you and they feel just fine. So there's a lot of people walking around with this virus who have no idea that they have it. The last part of this slide I want to show you, again, I showed this last week. If a person sneezes or coughs, now this particular coronavirus is known to be very infectious. Just me talking right here. If I had corona and my wife is just sitting over here, just me having a conversation is putting enough of the virus in the air. I don't have to cough. I don't have to sneeze. Just talk. Just talk. You heard about that choir rehearsal where people were singing and someone was singing the virus over all these people. Many walked away positive. So just me coughing, sneezing. If you look at the diagram here, you'll see where Ebola travels about 3 feet. Ebola, you never want to run into that virus. That one is deadly. And you'll also see where measles travels about 6 feet by a cough or a sneeze. It has been shown that the Ebola virus can travel over 20 feet in a cough or a sneeze. Okay? So you want to be very, very careful. Wash your hands. Stay home if you can. Wear your mask. And be very careful out there. Okay? That's all I had in terms of my presentation. Took a little longer than I thought. Took 20 minutes. But I hope that was very informative. We're going to get deeper as we go into the next parts of the series, okay? But from this point, we're going to see what questions we have from the audience. Sister Tanya?
Okay, the first question is, can you explain how long a virus can stay on the surface?
Can I explain how long a virus can stay on the surface? For those who may have gotten on late, I went over that. It was, if you look at different surfaces, it's different times, right? So, for example, the studies show on copper, about 4 hours, the virus can still infect. On plastic and stainless steel, about 3 days, the virus can still infect. Okay?
Okay, do you recommend wearing a mask all summer?
Do I recommend wearing a mask all summer? You want to wear a mask until this is handled over with. When we get to the last part of the series where we talk about treatment, tracing, and all of that, we will go a little bit more to that. But you want to wear a mask until this pandemic is over because, look, honestly, again, 20 to 50% of the people who actually have the virus. Remember, we hear about all these numbers about how many cases are positive, right? So I think, let's say, once, let's say Illinois had 30,000 people positive, right? Remember, that's only the people we've tested. We actually don't know how many people are positive because we're not testing everyone. But of everybody who's positive, clearly 20 to 50% of the people walking around here who've never been tested, they feel fine. They're still going around. They're still talking. They may be jogging or whatever. Don't even know they have it because their bodies react differently and they feel fine. So should you wear a mask? Oh, absolutely. Okay.
Are homemade masks effective, and what type of mask should we be wearing?
So the types of masks, let me send you to the internet for this. Those, obviously, we all on here have access to the internet. There are actually really, really, really good instructions out there how to build homemade masks now. So, and they will tell you the material to build them from. So it's a lot different permutations and different variations. I won't spend time here, but there are different things online. So, but for those who have access to, let's not take up the N95 mask. Let's leave that for the medical professionals, the fire and all of those people who can do. But surgical masks, the ones that are made out of the correct cloth, there are instructions on the internet now as to how to do that. Really good stuff out there to do that.
Can you just let people know where your presentation that you were referring to, where they can find it?
Oh, the presentation that I was referring to, I'm so sorry that everybody didn't pull it up. It is actually attached to this Facebook Live page. It's actually attached to it. Sister Celia put it up there for me, so you should be able to find it there.
Okay. Are wearing gloves effective or not, for grocery shopping, etc.?
Yeah, especially are wearing gloves effective? Yeah, absolutely. So what I do is I have some gloves in my wife's glove compartment. I have some gloves in my glove compartment of the car. So if I'm going to pump gas, for example, I'm going to open the glove compartment. I'm going to put a glove on. I'm going to handle I just put one on because that's the one I handle everything with. My credit card in the naked hand, I'll slide it in and put it back in my pocket. And my gloved hand, I handle everything else with that one. ATMs and all of that. Absolutely. If you feel like you need them in a grocery store, absolutely wear them in a grocery store. And don't let anybody make you feel funny about it either. That's your life you're protecting.
Can you talk about cross-contamination?
Okay. When I don't know who asked that question. I don't know. So cross-contamination. So I assume this is what you mean. Like, for example, I can put on gloves, right? Let's walk with me on this journey. I'll go and I'll put gloves on. And I'll go grocery shopping. I'll go first to the gas station. Let's start at the gas station. And I'll put everything in. I'll pick up the pump that a couple hundred people have been touching and, coughing in their hands and whatever they do. And I pick up but I have gloves on now, and I go and I pump my gas and I feel good because I have my gloves on. And then I'll say, oh, I need to go to the grocery store next. I don't change my gloves. I keep them on. I'm protected. My hands are protected. And I jump in my car. I grab my steering wheel and I drive to the store with those beautiful contaminated gloves on. And then I go and I pull up to the gas station and I go in and I pick all my food with my same gloves on, putting that in my car. I'm protected, right? I got the gloves on. Nothing is getting to my hands. And I pick all my food in my cart and I go up and I pay for the food, dig in my pocket with my protected gloves on, pull out my credit card, pay, and on and on. What am I doing? I'm taking germs from the gas station, then I put them on my steering wheel and I touch the gloves onto all the food that I'm taking home, taking the food to my house, and I left a trail of cross-contamination. So how should you do it? When you go someplace, you use a glove. I go to the gas station pump, take the glove off, put it in the garbage, not in your pocket, and you keep your steering wheel clear, and you don't cross-contaminate. Don't take germs place to place to place. I assume that's that's just one example.
Okay. Does bleach kill viruses?
Does bleach kill viruses? Yes, bleach, Lysol, all that stuff does kill viruses. This particular virus, coronavirus, it has the outside of it is protein, and the little crowns of it, that's protein. And just beneath the surface of it, it has a layer of fat. This is why alcohol, bleach, and everything else disrupts it and kills it, because it has that layer of fat, and that gets all blown up, and the virus just falls apart. Absolutely.
Which form of testing? Where to go? Which form of testing is most accurate?
Which form of testing? I assume you're talking about. There's two. Let me just categorize them really quickly here, because if you all want me to stay on maybe 5 minutes longer to 6:35, send Sister Tanya a note. Let me say this. There are two types of testing. There is one test that's going to say, do you have a COVID-19 infection right now today? That is what they do, and they stick that swab up your nose and then they send it somewhere. Well, what they're doing is testing for the gene of the virus. Is the DNA for the virus there? If they find it, they'll go, yep, you're positive, you have an active case. That's number one. So that's the people who get treated and make sure you're okay. After you have recovered from the virus and all, the second type of testing is, we've never seen you before, patient X. We wonder if you've ever had coronavirus before, if you've had COVID-19. Then there's antibody test. That's the second type. I need to test to see, have you been exposed to the virus and your immune system has made antibodies? That's the second type of test. This is an important test because this is the one that everybody's talking about now, that's going to, be able to test people and say, do you have antibodies? Okay, you can go to work. You have antibodies? Okay, you can go to work. You should. This is what we're trying to study now. Do you have good immunity? And if you have immunity, meaning you have antibodies, how long do you have immunity? Because in some cases, immunity does not last. You actually know this. Those who've gotten the measles shot before years ago, then they'll come and say, hey, you need a booster shot. What is that? That's because your first vaccine didn't last long, and the amount of antibodies go down, 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 and then they need to give you another shot of that same measles, and your immune system makes antibodies, and boom, the antibodies go way back up. Now you have protection. So we don't know how it is for this virus yet, but those are studies that are going on. So those are the two types of tests. One, you test for the DNA. Do you have an active case of COVID-19? Two, you test for antibodies. Did you have a case of COVID-19 and you're recovered now and you have immunity now? Okay, go to work. All right.
I'll ask two questions. Where can you get some masks from? And then the second question, can you get infected more than once?
Where can you get masks? I don't know. You have a whole slew of people out here who may be able to have access to that. You can make them, though, And the best thing to do, again, on the internet, there are a lot of great instructive videos showing how to make masks. And the second part of that question was,
can you get it more than once?
Can you get, so this virus, we're learning a lot about, can you get infected with this virus more than once? What the data is showing is this. In China, where it happened earlier, there were some people who got sick again. And it was like, are they getting reinfected? So they take the virus. I told you we will test for the genes of it, right? They go, well, this seems like the same one they had before. What seems to be happening is the virus, your immune system knocks it down, and then something happens with the person's body, and the virus gets reactivated, it's called, and then it bounces back and causes you to get sick again, okay? And that's in a very small percentage of people, but it seems that's what happens. It seems like viral reactivation as opposed to viral reinfection.
Okay. I'll do 2 more questions.
Yep, we got 4 more minutes left. I'll stop in 4 minutes.
Okay, I'll do 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
If you build your immune system, can you still get coronavirus? That's 1 question. And then 2, should you wipe down your groceries at home after going grocery shopping?
So if you build up your immune system,
can you
still get corona? Absolutely, you can. You can do the best, get all the rest you can, and eat all the high foods you can. Blah blah blah. Doesn't say that you cannot get. There are a lot of healthy people, but I will say this. I'm glad whoever that was that asked that question. I'm glad you asked it. I will say this. For all of us on this call, at the end of this, at the end of the series, when under one of the ones where I said it's what are our responsibilities? I believe that is session number 3. What we need to do. This should drive us to take much better care of ourselves. We have got to address high blood pressure, diabetes, all these underlying things. We have got to address them as people. We got to get real with ourselves, okay? And that means, but there's some things that are working against us. We'll talk about that because we got to talk about the enemy in order to get over it, okay? So there's some things we can do, and there's some things that have been done to us that we got to call it out so that we can address them, right? So that we can absolutely be in much better shape so that we won't keep dying. But the bottom line is, yes, you can build your immunity system. Yeah, so the data is showing there's nothing wrong with wiping your groceries down. Should you wipe your groceries down when you come from the grocery store? The data is showing Lysol towel or something, wiping your groceries off because people may have touched it, picked it up, and all of that stuff at the grocery store. Sure. There's nothing wrong with that, absolutely at all. Okay.
Another question: Can your diet?
2 more minutes.
Okay. Can your diet impact the effect of the coronavirus on your body?
Absolutely. Can your diet affect the impact of the virus? Yes. Yes. Do you see how many of us are dying of this from years of just fried food? Where the veggies, there's nothing wrong with fried food. Every now and then, but we say that we know better. But yet that could be the major part of our diet. But I'm telling you, absolutely, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, all these other, factors that can lead to issues. Guess what? The virus is saying I'm not mentioning respiratory issues, asthma and all. The virus is getting in people with these underlying issues, and it's like, oh, they're already compromised. Now, if I hit them hard, and the virus is not saying this, of course, but what happens is if you get hit hard, your chances of recovery really take a toll. So yeah, eating right means almost everything. Absolutely. Okay.
Okay. They're asking if you can please stay on so they can hear the answers to these questions.
So you all want me to stay on a little longer? Send a couple yeses to be sure to Sister Tanya.
Okay, meanwhile,
I don't want to go. Okay, this is what I'll agree to this. I will not, Lord willing, go past 640. Okay, I'll stay on to 640 and then I'll stop. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, There's a question. Does ammonia kill the virus?
Yeah, does ammonia kill the virus? Of course it does, because the virus, again, is actually pretty fragile. So, yeah, all those types of cleaners can. However, you don't need to be as rough as ammonia. Again, if you use bleach, a very dilute bleach solution, use 70% alcohol, use your Lysol wipes, your Lysol sprays, and all of that kills the virus. But with ammonia, you want to be careful, because if you have respiratory issue, it won't be your friend. So be very careful. And please, let me say this, do not mix bleach and ammonia. If you look at the chemistries of those two things, you'll know what I'm saying. For you, I'll just say it'll produce a gas that will land you in the hospital next to somebody with COVID, okay? All right.
Okay. Have you heard about a saltwater citrus rind treatment? You boil the water and breathe in the steam, which is supposed to kill the virus. Also, gargling the salt water.
Thank you.
Is it medically sound?
Boiling water, breathing it in, and all of that stuff, gargling with salt water, all of those are nice to do for your general health. You know, you may want to keep your throat clear or keep your nasal passages clear. Those who have seasonal allergies, you may want to, keep your nose passages clear and it actually flushes the allergens out and all of that stuff. For the purposes of this virus, it does nothing to prevent it. Again, boiling water, salt water, citrus water, apple water, strawberry water, whatever type of water you want to do, it does not. I don't want you to endanger yourself with thinking I'm preventing anything. It will not prevent. And if somebody sneezes and they're positive, and you inhale all of that after you breathe all that water in, and if the condition, not to say you'll get it automatically, but if the conditions are right, you can come down with this virus. So none of those things, this is why you wear your mask and your gloves.
Okay. Do you have an idea how long all this testing will take, and should we continue to practice social distancing until it is all confirmed?
How long will all the testing take? I believe you mean like for the population. We may never finish testing the population. But the other part of the question was,
should we
continue to practice social distancing? Yes, we should. Social distancing, your gloves, your masks, absolutely keep doing that, because you see what's happening to many of us as a people. We're getting decimated, all right? We have got to protect ourselves. If I don't take another question, we've got to protect ourselves. Have to.
Even after they open up the economy and everything.
Yeah, so even after they now if you tag on to that, the first part of that question though was
do you know how long?
Yeah, how long the testing? Let me get back to that. The testing, companies like mine and big companies, we're producing a lot of testing, and it's millions. The capacity is going to be millions per week. But the way it's going with the government, I just don't see them getting to everyone. So when we get to part 4, I don't want to give all the answers away today, because you need to come back. Testing, tracking, treatment, vaccines. We'll give you a little bit more information on that. But until then, social distancing, being very careful. And then I believe you added something else to that.
Even when they open up.
So the slow opening of the economy, that's the key. The slow opening of the economy. You got to pull back. So right now we're locked down. You got to pull back just a little at a time. Pull back a little. Test, 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 test. Do you see, like in China, they're seeing a re-uptick of infections. Then you have to bring it back down. I'll be honest with you all. There's really one way that we're going to be all the way safe again, and that is absolutely, you're going to have to come back before I give you that answer. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, that's it. Well, I got 1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay, should we get the flu shot?
Should you get the flu shot? That's totally up to you. I'll leave it there. That was an easy one. Yeah, that was easy.
And
640.
what about the cloth mask?
Yeah, the cloth masks again. Yeah, they're good. I tell you what, go to the internet, get your instructions on how to build a mask, and you all will see. Okay?
I'm sorry, I got some questions on my via text, and we'll have to get to them next time.
Okay, so some people sent Sister Tanya some questions via text. We're going to have to do that next time. Love everybody. God bless you.